What is going on, everybody? Sorry for the technical difficulties I'm having in the background. I don't know. How do I sound, guys?
Sexy as ever.
Sexy
Yeah,
as ever.
like Tom Cruise.
Sorry for anybody who's watching on YouTube or a replay back on this one. Sorry for the bad intro. Just a lot of technical difficulty. There's a lot of bad stuff happening behind the scenes, but nothing as bad as what we witnessed yesterday at 425 in Green Bay as the 49ers got whitewashed by the Packers 38-10. Is that the correct score?
Yep.
In a game where I never thought the Niners had a chance whatsoever. In a game that was going to be difficult to win with Brock Purdy and a smattering of other players. So we're going to just jump off both feet into really cold water. And I'm just going to ask the question, and either of you can take it. Did the 49ers quit yesterday?
Go ahead, James. You want to take it?
Yeah, I think a part of the team quit. I think on defense, yes, Nick Bosa wasn't playing. But here's the thing. Without Nick Bosa, the stats are crazy, blah, 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 blah. But when you let a guy like Josh Jacobs run all over you every single down, that's giving up. Because, yes, he's a premier running back, but the past defenses the Niners had, we went up against premier running backs every few weeks, and we still stopped them. This week, the whole first half, he was just running wherever he wanted. And I think definitely the defense quit. But as a team, I wouldn't say we quit yet because, some of the locker room talk after, they're like, well, it's crazy, but we're still in it because we are, which is we're kind of in it. But it's just because our division is so bad. But I would say part of our team quit. I don't have hope that we're going to make the playoffs at all this year. But, there's that like 18%, which is at the actual statistic that we have a chance to make the playoffs. So I guess there's that much hope. But, I just saw the Greenlaw thing. He's entering practice. But it's like, why bring him back if this whole team just looks like crap, Like you're just going to throw him in this defense that's going to allow 150 yards rushing, and I don't think they completely quit, but there's definitely players on that team that just don't look like they're there. The whole defense. I mean, I haven't even seen. I mean, I seen Warner here and there do things, but I feel like it's getting to him even. I think it's getting to all the rookies. Renardo Green. He was on the wide receivers, but you can see that he's struggling to cover guys, because he's struggling mentally probably, and a lot of these guys, see their team losing record. It gets in your head, and yeah, I don't think they fully quit, but they're getting there.
I think they showed some fight. They got down 17-0. Jacobs was running through them at will. And I think what the stat was, like the first 100-yard individual running back in 55 games, which is a long stretch. I mean, you have to hang your hat on that. But the Packers and Jacobs had the answer, and they got it to 17-7. And then the whole Debo kick return thing, holding on Eric Sauber, who knows how they still would have lost, but who knows how much more competitive that game could have been. But we talked about it last week of the podcast that, the margin of error is so slim for this team that you can't lose the turnover battle 3-0. You can't lose the time of possession battle 13.5. You can't get doubled up in first downs. You can't have 2 turnovers and give Green Bay a short field inside the 30 where they're going to quickly cash in on touchdown. So I think this team, in a way, I'm not going to compare them to the Giants or Jets, but we live in the Northeast and it's the Empire State of Mind podcast. So I'll just compare it in this way. I don't think the Jets or Giants are tanking. They don't have a tank commander, the way people say that. They're just so bad that they can just keep doing what they're doing and they're just going to roll to a top 3 pick. I don't think the Niners are quitting, but when they are not executing, shooting themselves in the foot or the face, doesn't really matter at this point. They're missing a whole bunch of players. The output is going to look like that. They would have had to play a perfect game to lose to Green Bay by 7. And this was so far from a perfect game that it was, it's a 28-point loss. It was what it was. And if this is the squad that they put out on the field in Buffalo, then the outlook's going to look very, very similar.
Oh, man, it was that game was tough to watch yesterday. Ryu, perfect timing. Team is old, tired, and paid. Yeah, they're complacent. You can see all of that. I think one thing that really gets to me that I think is really infuriating, and I'm not saying that you can't have life outside of football, is just the Deebo Samuel podcast, the Fred Warner podcast, all these outside ventures that this team has been a part of or did in the offseason. You couple on the fact that we had another Super Bowl come down to the end where we lost. You add on top of that the contract negotiations. You add on top of that the shooting that happened that nearly killed Ricky Pearsall. And you just kind of put that all together with a ton of injuries. And I just think if this team didn't intentionally quit, I just think that they're out of gas. And they're out of, I don't know, whatever resolve that was in that tank after the Super Bowl or during that Super Bowl. I think, players say like, oh, it's a new year and you got to turn the page. Like I told you guys before, if fans have a hard time turning the page and they're not playing, there's no doubt in my mind that players are living with the same kind of thing, replaying stuff over and over in their brain. This team is old in some places. They need to get young. I think some people on this team named Deebo Samuel, I think some people on this team maybe have mentally checked out already on the season, just based on their play, based on their lack of professionalism when it comes to facing the media and taking ownership of what it is you're supposed to take ownership of because you're a captain. Mm-hmm. You put all that out together, and I feel that the Niners, what you're seeing to me is a culmination of all the things you talked about, another Super Bowl lost, and a team that's been through a ton of games over the past 4 seasons. And I just think this team needs a refresh. This team needs a slight reboot. Coaching changes, you name it, all that stuff is all coming to a head. And I think it came to a massive head in Green Bay. And I don't see it getting any better until this season's over. So if you thought the Green Bay game was bad, wait till Buffalo. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and we'll see, Purdy threw lightly today. They're going to rest him until Wednesday and see how it's going to go. I wonder if they would, and a lot of people are being doom and gloom, right? Like, oh, MRI, and naturally all the social media doctors come out. It's his labrum. It's his this. It's the elbow, and because the elbow didn't heal, now it's the shoulder, and he's injury prone. You can't give him money, and people, it just snowballs in terms of and then a bunch of idiots kind of jump on that wagon. I wonder if they would sit him against Buffalo just because cold weather, tough team. They're probably not going to win that game anyway. You get to 5-7 or you fall to 5-7. You hope the division falls with you, which is possible. And you come home for 2 games against Chicago and the Rams. And if you get to 7-7 and the West is still within striking distance, they go for it. I'm still a realist. Even if something ridiculous happens, even if they make the playoffs, they win something great, they're not going anywhere, right? We get it, but I'm also not in the mentality of tank mode, sit CMC, sit Brock. I mean, of anything, maybe you don't bring Greenlaw back, but I still think this team probably has too much pride to tank, throw in the towel. I can see them getting discouraged. When you're down 17-0, who wouldn't be discouraged? Shit, here we go again. This isn't even a game we're up. Usually we get up and then we lose. Now we're just getting blown out from the jump. So I can see that how this season, all things considered, injuries, circus, contracts, whatever, blowing games has worn on this team. But I think they still have enough, pride that they're going to just finish out the string. But you could bring Bosa back. You could bring Trent Williams back. You can bring Charvarius Ward back and Greenlaw back next week against the Bills. If Brock doesn't play, they have no shot.
Yeah, we got to have Purdy. I mean, there's no way we win any more games without him. I mean, we were just talking about this, me and Al before this. He's really the reason why we've stuck in games, even the ones we lost. And the fact that these idiots are talking crap about him just shows that they have no football IQ, because a guy, if you know football, Purdy has saved us like the Messiah himself. He has really saved us our asses half these games. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be that big play to Kittle in the back of the end zone. There wouldn't be, there's huge plays that he made that no other quarterback we have, or most of the NFL has, that make the plays he does, with what he's got. He's got, like I keep saying, he has a different lineup every freaking week. 1 week Debo's out, 1 week Ayuk's out, 1 week Kittle's out, 1 week McCaffrey's out. It's like a revolving door, and you, as the quarterback, have to make a game plan around that, and that is hard to do. I mean, you have to change everything you're planning because one guy's out. So for people not to give Purdy the kudos, I don't know what you're thinking. Watch more football, because you don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, I'm going to be selfish. I want to see Purdy next week because I'm going to the Bills game. I'm really tempted to sell the freaking tickets though, because I don't want to sit in the freaking snow and watch us get our ass kicked. I really, really don't. So I hope we at least put up a fight. But I haven't been to a game in 10 years. Last game I was at was the last game at Candlestick. So I really want to see the Niners. I really want to see Purdy. I want to see them put a fight against Buffalo, because at least if they lose and they show a fight, at least, the NFL sees that, and it's like, well, the Niners are actually still a good team. It's just they had a bad year, and that's what I want. I want us to still be known as a good team, just having a bad year, because that's pretty much what it is. I think these guys are just not in the right headspace this year because of losing the Super Bowl, because of all the shit that's happened this year. We're still a good team. It's just we just, every team has a bad year, and this is it.
I think there's some fundamental issues there with this franchise that need to change. Namely, the over reliance on in-house candidates to replace defensive coordinators that have departed this team. I think the Niners were on the right track with Steve Wilks. They just maybe chose the wrong guy to come in and do it. But the Niners on both sides of the ball have become a predictable. Well, that's just it. They've become a predictable mess. There's nothing that the 49ers do on either side of the ball that's cutting edge anymore. They look old. They look like a team, like somebody said in the comments, that's running a 1980s style offense. And it is an old offense. It's Kyle's father's offense that he ran in the 90s with the Denver Broncos. And essentially it's the same thing, just with different players in positions, different positions with different numbers. But offensively, Kyle needs to evolve. Things need to change. There has to be an evolution with his offense. I haven't seen that, and it's been the same offense since he came here in 2017. Okay, nothing's really evolved. Defensively, I watch them and they look uninspired. There's no, I don't sense any excitement and rallying to the ball, that kind of stuff. Like before, when you had a guy like Saleh or even a guy like DeMeco's, they felt like a group that played for each other, with each other. And I know there's a lot of guys injured, and I know people want to go to the injury excuse. But like the guy in the Green Bay Packers says, we had our quarterback out for a couple games, and we still found ways to win. And I understand the Niners' injuries are at an all-time high, but I don't know. The effort yesterday, based on that, if that is the only thing, I just felt the effort wasn't there yesterday, and I felt that the injury was a easy excuse to lean on and rely on for a team that looked like they didn't want to get off the bus and play in a cold weather stadium, and they just look like a team that has already packed it in for the year and realizes that they're not going anywhere. I don't know. Like I just don't get that vibe from this team that they're the same team we've seen in prior years who's going to go on this huge run. I don't sense that energy whatsoever.
No, I'm with you. And that no-name Packers player who said that, like, we were missing our quarterback, and they beat the Titans and the Colts.
True.
Now, granted, it was with Malik Willis, who's hot garbage, but they beat two bad teams. I think it was the Titans they edged out, and they did beat the Colts by like 14 or 17 or whatever. So I'm not going to put too credence in like a no-name, type of player. Offensively, the slight evolution that I'd want to see this week is getting Jordan Mason involved. He is not the cure-all.
Yep.
He is not the elixir that's going to solve everything. But the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's had the best run of all the running backs are just him and McCaffrey, and Kyle doesn't keep him in. He got a touch or two in the first half, did not touch the ball again until the Niners were running out the clock in the fourth quarter. And yeah, they're playing behind. So you want to leave McCaffrey in there for pass protection and running some routes. But again, where's the creativity in 2 running back sets? Give them a different physical type of Josh Jacobs type of runner, and it's just not being done. So, I mean, that's the only evolution I can see on offense. Defensively, I'm with you. Like, they got to look beyond in-house candidates, and maybe you guys can refresh my memory if Kyle Shanahan has an issue with this person. But the Browns are trash. The Browns are going to probably clean house in the offseason. Maybe the head coach sticks around, but Jim Schwartz is going to be gone. I don't know if Kyle has something against Jim Schwartz, a personal thing, headbutting or whatever. He'll be available. Would either of you guys take Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator next year?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's great.
Again, and I don't know if there's, maybe I'm thinking about someone else that Kyle doesn't like or whatever, but there are going to be.
That was the old Lions coach, right? That Harbaugh slapped on the back, correct?
Well, maybe it was the Harbaugh thing. That
handshake.
Harbaugh went a little nuts on trying to give him a tramp stamp or something. I don't know. And look at the Packers. Their D coordinator was a college head coach, right? Healthy from Boston College. Like, you can look, there are people that exist that are qualified candidates, like you said, outside of the organization, Aaron, that I think they need to look at. And you're right, uninspired. It doesn't have to fall to the D coordinator to motivate these guys play in and play out. I think they could be dialed up in such a way schematically that they can get themselves excited. I was shocked. They ran 3 blitzes in the first half. Yeah. One, they got off the field on a third down where it was, I think, like a 3rd and 10. They sent like an all-out blitz at Love. Love had to just basically throw it in the ground. Wow, it worked. And guess what? They didn't do it again. None in the second half. And blitzing's not the cure-all either. It's just vanilla. And if Sorensen survives to next year and Kyle says, well, he just had a bad draw and all of us, but statistically we're top 10 in yards, then I'm going to flip my crap.
Yeah.
Like, we're just praying right now that at least the first 2 fixes are Schneider and Sorensen gone. And I hate to say that about people losing their jobs, but that'll be a step in the right direction.
The only thing, everything you just said is 100% accurate on all fronts, including the defensive coordinator who's could become free. But I have a feeling the last thing that you said is going to be what happens, because Kyle and John are they'll never admit they're wrong. They'll try to find a way to get around it. Like an argument that they statistically were really good, blah 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 blah, and this, that, and the other, and give themselves a reason to get off the hook so that they could give him another shot and instead of just being like, look, this whole thing with him and the ex-Chargers coach being a 2-man defense coordinator booth, it was bad. It was a bad move, right? We screwed up on that one. They're not going to own that. Kidding me? The only thing I got to say is, regardless of who was playing or who wasn't playing, 19 missed tackles is an inexcusable number. That is just shit effort. That's what it is. It's bad effort. It's bad a lot of things. I don't want to hear like, oh, they didn't have this guy playing or that guy playing. Like, can a defensive coordinator schematically do something to avoid having something like that happen? I understand that there's issues with having certain guys out, but sometimes good defensive coordinators might have not the best personnel, but they find a way around things to make things work.
Minnesota
19 missed tackles, bro.
Yeah, he didn't. Here's the thing about him. It seems like he's their friend or something, because he really doesn't put his foot down. Because if I was that damn coach and I saw these guys missing tackles, every missed tackle, I would tell that guy, get the hell off the field. I'm putting another guy in. And then I'd put that guy in.
Or you'll find him. Because you'll probably run out of guys if you do that.
Yeah, you probably would. But still, like if that's like a top defensive player missing a tackle, I would at least yell at him and be like, dude, what the hell are you freaking doing? They don't even do that. It's just Sorensen seems like he's just their buddy or something, and it bothers me. It's like this is a whole buddy system, that they're stuck in. And, the Niners need to like revamp the whole damn team, because I'm not going to say everybody, but there's a lot that needs to change between here and next season. And Sorensen's a big one.
Fred Warner missed the most tackles on the team, right? It was like something like 5 or 6. And again, it was another game where I didn't really want to listen to much of the post-game presser, but I did see a snippet of Sorensen on social media, and his, not excuse, but his rationale is, well, sometimes, we play too aggressive. We play too violently, that like we're overrunning something, and it was like a 30-second clip. The first 15-ish seconds, I was understanding what he was saying. Even if I didn't agree with it, I understood it. Then the last 15, he started rambling something about, well, if Fred misses him, but he gets a piece of him and other guys are going to rally and make the tackle. Like, there is something. Like, how many times do we watch games, any football, college, high school, pro, any team, right? Gunners on punt returns. They're running down the field like their hair's on fire. No one's coming down under control. The punt returner catches it, jukes one way, leaves the gunner in the dust. So I think, to me, there is something to be said for playing with a little bit more self-control. Forget hitting the right gaps and like taking angles. Like, you could play with a little bit more self-control. And I think that's okay. And if Sorensen's not teaching it, then they're allowing it. And as much as he's saying, we want to play fast, we want to play violent, we want to play physical, they're playing violent and physical just because they're playing the sport of football. Big, strong men tackling each other. It's a violent sport. But this defense, I'm not going to say they're soft, because again, these are huge men that are doing something that I can never do. Body type, mentality, whatever. But they're not like, I can't say that they're a physical team, or that they're an imposing team, or that they're a dominating team, or that they're playing downhill, because they're passive. And if you're playing a passive read and react defense, I can't say you're playing violently. Why? Because you tackled someone? Tackles happen every single play. Is everyone playing violently? It's a weird thought process that Sorensen had. And I think the media might have been Larry Krueger. Not that they called him out on it, but they brought attention to, like, listen to this guy's answer. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I want to pivot off of like whether the season's over or if guys quit. And I want to jump over to something that I think a lot of people noticed just from watching the game effort-wise, and that's that Deebo Samuel. Me and Al have different viewpoints as far as Val calls it, like the gloom and doom kind of outlook, and I'm kind of in that particular. I kind of fit under that umbrella, but I kind of don't, because I'm not trying to get rid of Brock. I'm not trying to get rid of Kyle. I'm not trying to just completely gut this whole thing and start over like a lot of these, Cone clicky, Cone friends, Cone and friends guys want to do. But the one take I did agree with, and it came from I think it was Dieter Kurtenbach from 95, either 95.7 the game or KNBR, is that he says that he thinks that Deebo should be stripped of his captain patch, just based on his effort this season. And then his, you're going to call, and I was the first guy to have Deebo's back. He calls out a player, the long snapper and the kicker. And then when it came for him to own up and to, man up and answer questions, he acted like a little, bitch, and was nowhere to be found. So I want to play this clip just to kind of, pour gasoline on the fire. Cause I totally, for all the stuff that maybe is just an overreaction because of this season being so bad, this is actually one thing that I absolutely 100% agree with. Let's see if I have the right clip here.
Last time I checked, Deebo Samuel wears a C on his jersey.
That's exactly right.
And he can't talk to the media after a loss. I don't want to see the C on the jersey again. I think you strip it from him, because he's not been a leader on this team. He's not a leader in the way he plays. He hasn't been a leader in the way he's acted. And I don't want to pretend as if we have some like outsized importance here in the media. It doesn't matter. That I don't care. Job. I don't care that Deebo Samuel doesn't talk to the media on the principle of not getting to talk to Deebo Samuel. He's a terrible interview anyway, as noted by his podcast, which is just a tough listen.
Way too much Deebo in our sound soiree. Yeah, that's what I was saying last week. I was like, is anybody show up in it more who says less?
We're the only people listening to the damn thing. So that is there. But as fans, you guys should be angry because the reason, if media has one role left in this strange, flattened out world, it's that we're in the room and we can get somebody to talk, to answer, and have accountability for their play or the play of their team, to get some answers, right? Because not everybody can get in and they're not going to go into a YouTube chat and answer every question. Like, there is still a little bit of a role for the media in this world. And if Deebo Samuel doesn't want to talk to the media, that's telling everyone that he doesn't want to hear from the fans. He doesn't want to be accountable for his play. And his play has been awful. And his team's play has been awful. And he's wearing a C. And he has the big money contract. And he's the one calling out teammates. This is a bad, bad look. And it could be step one in this thing starting to unravel well beyond Deebo Samuel. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But I don't want to see that C on his jersey again because he's done nothing to deserve it this year.
100%.
There's nothing I could say against any of that. I think Deebo Samuel has been a massive disappointment this year.
Yeah.
And for the amount of money he's making and for the amount he likes to talk in his podcast and dance before the game and do all that stupid crap and dress with a leather jacket with a pair of baby shorts on. Like, you could do all that stuff if you're winning and contributing. But if you're going to be the guy that's going to go point out the fact that your kicker's not locking in and you're going to go slap around your long snapper, and then when it comes time for you to do the same thing, man up, lock in, catch a pass once or twice during a game instead of letting them skid off your hands. And that's the kind of, quote unquote bitch move that you go with, but not talk to the media. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. I hate his behavior. I hate his behavior because you don't talk to the media. That is something. It kind of reminds me of when Cam Newton lost the Super Bowl and just ran off, didn't shake hands with anybody. It's sort of the same feel for me, and I hate it because when a player does that, it makes everybody question what they're up to, and what Deebo's probably up to is he just doesn't give a crap because our team sucks, I can't do anything about it. He has the wrong mindset, and you can see it because that one play where he almost caught it and it turned into an interception, the whole thing with this team is the effort, and he didn't show any effort in that game because he should have made that catch. He was worried about the defender hitting him, and that is not Deebo. That is not a captain. Captains make those plays. Captains do talk to the media. They do the things they need to do for leadership. Now, the punt thing, I mean, we agreed with what he did, but at the same time, it's like captains shouldn't even act that way either. It's not a leader. People look up to you, but he's just non-existent this year. I mean, everybody said he's not a wide receiver, and we all agree with that he's not like a pure wide receiver, but at least like get some catches on screens or something and get up the field, but he's not doing any of that. He's not doing anything he's done in the past this year.
And listen, it's you guys have all said it, and it was said in the media also. It's not captain-like behavior by any means. I mean, I would be shocked if he's actually stripped of his cap. Like, I can't imagine Kyle doing that, right? Like, it's one thing to call for it, and you could be, I'm so aggravated with Deebo. Like, he should be like, he's not going to be stripped. So I understand, like, taking the emotion out of it. It wasn't captain-like behavior. I don't recall him, and maybe he has in the past, like skipping out on an interview. The only time I remember him not really maybe fraternizing with people was after the Rams championship game loss, where his head was in his towel and Odell came over to console him. So it's not like, Cam Newton was a big bitch, and he probably still is a big bitch in terms of like media stuff. So Deebo's not like a repeat. It doesn't feel like he's a repeat offender, but look, the organization this past Thursday leading up to the game, when they weren't sure about Brock, they had no quarterback at media availability. They could have had Brock strut out there and say like, oh yeah, my arm was feeling just a little tired. We took it in. We're still undecided what we're going to do. So I'm not going to say this is an organizational thing that when they don't want to discuss something, they don't. But like, Not that Debo was thinking like, hey, no quarterback was talking on Thursday, I'm not going to talk. It was a bitch move by him, especially with, calling out the long snapper and the kicker and all that stuff. All it is questions. He had a drop, or 2 drops. It happens, right? Like, it happens. I mean, Ricky Pearsall, I hate to say this, is Ricky Pearsall getting a pass because he got shot? He had no catches again this past week. He had no catches the week before. Like, there needs to be some sort of, I don't want to say, everyone uses the word accountability. Is asking someone a question like, are you really holding them accountable? They're just giving you an answer. Like, holding them accountable would be taking them down into your basement, like maybe whipping the shit out of them to get them in shape, and then being like, now you got to catch the ball, like really threatening. Like, that's accountability versus just, I'm a media member and I asked you a question, you answered, I held you accountable. Not really. Not really. There's a lot. Debo, I don't think people have to worry about like the Debo situation after this year. I think he is probably going to get traded, but it worries me from the standpoint of, for the folks that don't want Debo to be here, and I'm torn on it, is it's only a $5 million savings if they cut or trade him after June 1st. And he reworked his contract to lower his cap hit. And Kyle may have the mindset of, not all the players, but whoever's under contract, let's maybe run it back and see what we can do when we're healthy. And I think that's going to be scary too, because there are going to be some players like a Hargrave, like maybe a Juice or God, I don't even know who else is under contract that I want to get rid of. That can't be here, that they just need to get younger and cheaper. But end rant soliloquy. That's my Debo. That's my Debo effort.
Yeah.
Debo doesn't own us fans anything. He doesn't own the radio station anything, but as his part of his responsibility as a professional athlete to speak after games. And it's a bad optic to me.
Oh yeah.
Based on what he did on camera, to which a lot of people know I was totally behind him getting in the face of Moody and the long snapper. I thought that was a great move. I thought that was actually a leader move for him to do that. But he hasn't been good all year. He hasn't played good at all this year, other than a couple of games here and there. And it's okay to admit that guys are getting long in the tooth, that it might be time to move on. But just, I don't know, man. Like, it's a bad optic on a team that's doing really bad this year. The team that's going nowhere. They're not going anywhere.
It's just worsening it. It's worsening it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the guys are talking about the podcast. Like, all these guys got podcasts, and I'm thinking, why is that a focus?
That shouldn't be
during the NFL season when your playoff lives are on the line, and you might not be available to play the game, but you'll be available to do your podcast every Tuesday.
It's
no
probably
questions asked.
It's probably a money grab.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
It's probably a money grab. That's all it is.
From what? They make enough on the field. What the heck kind of money could you get from a podcast?
Hey, you see how greedy the guys are. I mean, they're making $30 million, $40 million a year. I mean, they don't care.
I wouldn't even waste time with a podcast. I'd be like Tom Brady. My head would be buried in a playbook. I'd be in the coach's office every week.
Look at Micah Parsons too. Look at Micah Parsons too.
Parsons has a contract. Yeah, everybody's got a podcast. Yeah. It's like Oprah. She's handing out podcasts to everybody.
Look at their play. It's tanking. Their play is tanking because they're not focused. It's like all these players don't focus on what they need to
Debo got called out. I mean, Debo blocked me because I tagged him in the whole thing from T.O. pretty much called him out and says that he's worried more about his outfits than he is about playing.
Yeah, and I agree.
Hey, but is Owens wrong for saying something like that? No. Say what you want about Owens being a head case or a mental irregularity to the max, but he was a beast on the field up until the end. He just wasn't a good person or a good teammate. When it comes to like effort on the field, shoot.
Can you imagine T.O. in this generation, though? You don't think T.O. would have a podcast? You don't think T.O. would be
T.O. would have the most
hamming it up on social?
He'd probably have the most popular podcast out there.
Oh yeah.
He'd be doing it shirtless every week.
Throwing teammates, quarterbacks under the bus. Then
2,000 women just watching.
That was still one of the greatest interviews. What was it, when he was with the Eagles, or the whole contract thing when he was doing sit-ups in his driveway with his agent there, with Rosenhaus there? Phenomenal. We need
Brent Jones. Do I have the Brent Jones clip here calling people out? Let's see if I do.
The Green Bay Packers and Coach LaFleur had this game circled on the calendar. Yeah. It looked like this was a get-back game. They didn't give a damn about the 49ers injuries, which is the bottom line in the NFL. Nobody cares that you're dealing with injuries. Everybody has to deal with injuries. Point taken, the Green Bay Packers early in the year with Jordan Love, and they still went out and won games. So yesterday it almost felt personal with Josh Jacobs breaking off tackles, with them kind of running up the score, putting up 38 points. This was a message that the Packers wanted to send, and it seemed like the 49ers damn near left this game on voicemail and never really received that message.
Well, Josh Jacobs said after the game on Fox how he wasn't with the team last year. He said, I saw how important it was for these guys. As I knew how these guys, their season had ended. To your point, here was the quote from, I found it here, Keyshawn Nixon about the Niners missing all their players. It's the NFL. It's not an excuse. We didn't have our quarterback and we won 3 games. So we don't want to hear that. We came to play. They should have come to play.
That's fine. 38 to 10, 28 to 10, 13 to 10. This isn't college football. There's no power rankings. You don't get ranked higher because you beat someone by 28. It's totally, as much as they, Josh Jacobs said, I saw how much it meant to those guys. Yeah. You know what? Jordan Love threw 2 touchdowns yesterday. He should have had 2 interceptions. I mean, Renardo Green was falling away from the ball. Jair Brown had one. I don't call them drops. They just didn't catch him. Jordan Love was the reason that they lost the divisional round playoff. Like, quite literally, he choked the game away. Jordan Love wasn't the reason why they won this game.
I don't think I don't think he looked incredibly good in this game.
Look good at all.
If the Niners had a pass rush in this game, I think they would have looked a lot different.
Yeah,
I think if the Niners actually could get to the quarterback, things would look a lot different. I think I was not impressed by the quarterback whatsoever. It was a get right game. Yeah, it was because the running back and nothing else.
Yeah.
One person I think who really stood up as a real man was George Kittle after the game. Just a man. Talk about a guy that just refuses not to be positive. I wish I could take some of that and inject it into my veins on a daily basis, but it's killing him inside, but he'll never project that to the world.
Yeah.
And you go from somebody who doesn't want to talk to the media because he's acting like a little girl and all in his feelings and stuff, like Debo blocking people on social media because he's all up in his feelings like a girl. And then you got someone like Kittle who's just like, they used to say that the Macho Man oozes machismo, or was it not? It wasn't the Macho Man. It was Razor Ramon. He oozed machismo. Oh, well, I think George Kittle oozes machismo as far as like he just like no matter what, he's always that constant positive voice even after a Super Bowl loss, and that's how that if you as a young player, if you want to pay attention or study an athlete coming into the league about how you should act as a professional day in and day out, and how you talk to the media as a professional, even if you get your ass whipped. Go jot down some notes, watch a George Kittle press conference about how to do it the right way.
Yeah. He's such a rarity though. Cause he even says like, I'm just always positive. It's not about the game of football. It's about how he is in life. That's just his personality. That's a rarity in life. There maybe 2 out of 10 people are like that, or 1.5 out of 10. And it was just getting up there and talking and answering questions. Like, and most of the questions are softball questions from the media, and probably gets asked the same question more than once because media members are idiots and they try to ask like, I'm just going to ask the same sort of thing. And Debo could have helped control the narrative, right? It sucks. You're up there for 5 minutes, if that, whether you're at the podium or at your locker. And he could have completely changed how people look at him by like, he could have, you say the right, like, it's on me. I got to make those catches. Allen got me the ball. I got to catch the ball. Like, hell, Tabor Pepper should come and slap me now. Like, he could have turned it around, not made a joke out of it, but showed that, like, that it bothers him, or that he understands the optics of what he did a couple weeks ago, and that maybe somebody should do it to him. To not say anything is just weak. I mean, you can get up there and do the Bill Belichick route. Someone asks you a question, you give a 3-word answer, you just fulfill your obligation and move on. But that would just lead to even more. Well, no, the worst thing he did was not face the media, but I think he had an opportunity to just say the right things and put it on himself, because he's had 4 catches the last 2 weeks, only 1 catch against Green Bay, and that was a tunnel screen. So, who knows what his stat line or Pearsall's or anybody else's look like with Brock versus a backup quarterback, right? That is part of the equation, but he did have some opportunities. he didn't cash in, and the biggest opportunity he got was the kick return, and the Niners just continued to shoot themselves in the foot with it. And I'm not apologizing for Debo by any means. He did what he needed to do on that kick return. It just was not as a receiver, and that's been his downfall for a little while now.
Yeah, and
You know,
Kittle's my favorite player because he is the guy that you want on your team. He is that guy that's going to pancake block somebody and laugh about it.
he's
And
amazing.
You see this guy playing, and you want to play just as hard as he does because he plays 100%, not 110%.
He plays it like a
every
little
play.
kid game that it is,
Yeah,
and he
he's
does it
having
really,
fun.
really good.
Like
and
he's
he's
having fun.
He's a great teammate.
Yep.
Like everything about him screams not the modern day athlete because they're not like this. Most athletes are pricks who shouldn't be role models. They live a very, very immoral life off the field. Like
Yeah.
everything that you want to learn not to do is by paying attention to what athletes do. They have a lot of money. They can do what they want. They can get what they want. And like he is completely different. He's kind of a hippie. His parents are kind of hippies, and that's okay. They're kind of a throwback to the 70s of like peace and love, man. Everything's great. Late 60s, actually. And like that's okay because people used to make fun of hippies back in the day and people like that who had that kind of mindset. But man, we could use that a lot nowadays in this world with the way everybody's so pissed off and angry, and there's no natural affection between people. And so yeah, Kittle's a big. I've grown into being a Kittle fan because I was kind of in that place a couple of years ago where I'm like, man, he's kind of banged up. He needs to go. Blah blah blah. Yeah, and I've completely 180'd my stance on Kittle. My stance on Debo is immovable. I personally think that Debo has just played himself into a place where he just physically, he just doesn't have, as Mickey used to say, or Rocky, the fighting guts. Some guys get hit so much, man, over a short period of time. I just think the natural human tendency is when you get paid is to kind of soften up and not saying like not put in effort, but it's just natural human nature, right? You get paid, you get a little soft. Maybe you don't want to take that extra hit anymore. That could put you, in a wheelchair after your career. And he doesn't play with the same ferocity. He doesn't run the ball with the same explosiveness. All of us notice it except for Kyle, which is the most mind-boggling thing in the world. Is like everybody else sees it except for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle's like always the last guy to figure out what's going on. When it comes to Debo, I think he's still caught in this like 2019 thing where he just thinks that Debo is your do-it-all, jacked up Percy Harvin, and he's just not that guy anymore. I just don't think I don't think he's got the fighting guts. Hopefully move on from him in the offseason. Go ahead, Al.
No, I was gonna, but let's see where he is in 2025. If he's with the Niners, fine. If he's somewhere else, but 2025 is a contract year for him, unless he gets traded in the offseason, and with the trade comes an extension. But let's just say, a Hassan Reddick thing types that happens and he gets traded and there's no contract worked out with his new team where he stays with the Niners. You're probably going to get a better version of Deebo Samuel next year, barring some sort of like weird, ACL, like catastrophic type of injury thing. You'll probably get a better version of him because he's on a contract year again. Like it happens in every year, every sport, people. And Deebo's best year was his contract year, and then it fell off afterwards. At least Ayuk was ascending.
Look at
every
Juan
year
Soto
he came
this
in
year.
the league. What's that?
Look at Juan Soto on the Yankees this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's getting paid, and it's just a matter of who wants to pay the most money.
Yeah.
Because after that World Series ended and they got their ass kicked, he wasn't talking about, oh man, I'm so sad, boo, boo, boo. He was talking about business, bro.
Yeah.
His mind went straight to the money. He didn't care. They don't care. A lot of these guys don't care.
For the money. Playing for the
Kittle
money.
is the one guy that actually loves to have money. He likes the notoriety, he loves the fame, and he loves to play pro football. That's just not real anymore. Like the players in this, and that's okay. I mean, that's just the world we live in now. But like, what a complete like yin and yang, like a contrast of like a guy that lives for football but is also like has a lust for life.
Yeah.
And then there's just Debo, just like it's okay. I really don't get too excited one way or the other. Like you watch that
Debo-
press. You ever watch his podcast? Do you just like all I want to do is fall asleep when I watch that thing because they're just
I haven't watched
he
it 'cause
sits in
I
the
heard
chair.
that.
He's just kind of like totally like spaced out, and it's just like man, I don't know. But
Debo the
Not
Diva.
too live.
Debo the Diva. That's what I call him. Debo
Um,
the Diva.
how do I do this? I want to go to kind of looking towards the future. A couple things that have been discussed in the media. Two things, and they're both true, and it sucks. And I want to ask you guys: is there a way to come back from it? Is CMC cooked? And is Fred? What is going on with Fred Warner? Al, either one you want to, you can discuss both of them. But like, there's this thing going around, and I don't really want to go there with the CMC thing because I just think I just feel like he's in training camp right now. Essentially, is how I'm looking at it. I just don't think his legs are underneath him. I would have rather them have him not come back this year and come back early next season. But that's just me. What's your take on like CMC and then the whole Fred Warner like? What's going on with them? You can go either one first.
Yeah. No, I don't think CMC's cooked. I think even though we're not at practice, we don't know whatever treatment he got in Europe, Germany, wherever it was. I'm sure he was healthy enough to play. But yeah, I mean, same with Ayuk. You just can't turn it on and be like, well, I'm an athlete. So McCaffrey had what, like 3 practices or like a week and a half of practices and then got thrust into like 57 snaps his first game. And I kept saying he should have been the 3rd down back, like keep Mason in on early downs, McCaffrey in on passing downs, get them both in the backfield at some point. I don't think he's cooked at all. I don't blame. A couple things could be true. Like I don't think he's cooked, but I also think the running game looked better without him. Is he potentially a step slower or just not seeing the holes as well from being off and rusty and not playing football? I think that's very possible. And I think the workload that they gave him right off the bat wasn't the best way to ease somebody back. Do you think Dre Greenlaw is going to play a full game when he comes back? If he comes back this year, I highly doubt it. Right. You know, and that was granted an Achilles tear versus 2 Achilles that might have torn. I think McCaffrey, the Niners not making the playoffs this year, it looks like that's the route it's going to go, right? Could be a blessing. Give these bodies an extra month and a half to heal, come back, reload. It's not a blow it up situation, retool the roster. I think McCaffrey's going to be okay. If someone like, and Derrick Henry's is a freak of nature, but he's, I think, a year older than McCaffrey, the number of more hits and carries and everything that he's had, and he's still chugging. Like there's players that can Gore, like still chugging. I don't think, again, we're comparing McCaffrey to an offensive player of the year versus this 3 games back where he's technically still in like preseason mode or training camp mode. And the running game was awful against Green Bay, like 16 rushes for 41 yards, but they got down so quick that they had to get away from it. So I almost give that a wash. As for Fred Warner, again, still only 27 like McCaffrey. He's not going to be going anywhere. I think he's a candidate like Kittle that could be extended. And he's 4 years younger than Kittle. I think Kittle's going to be a 10+ year Niner and probably retire a Niner. If for no other reason, then Kyle can't find another tight end. So, he has the best job security on the planet. Warner, like either the missed tackles or he hasn't been as much of a force the last 4 weeks as he was the first 7 weeks. And I'm not sure why, how much it's the scheme. Sorensen, I don't think he's cooked or getting tired or getting run down or anything. I think it's as a middle linebacker, he can only do so much when the entire squad around you and the scheme and the defensive coordinator, for the most part, isn't holding up their end of the bargain. Again, I think he'll be fine, however fine you want to say the rest of the season. Maybe McCaffrey has a better December than he does November. It's going to be too little too late, but I'm, in terms of the future, short, long-term, next 2-3 years, totally fine with Warner and McCaffrey probably only has maybe 2 or 3 years left anyway before he gets put to the, pasture or he's just, purely a 3rd down back in this league.
Yeah. And I think McCaffrey's just rusty, it happens, he's been out the whole season. I'm not going to say our offensive line has played great, but they showed they can play good when Mason was, one of the top rushers in the league. So, I think it's just a little rust on McCaffrey, his legs are still probably, getting there and seeing the holes. He has to learn that stuff all over again. I mean, he's been doing it for years, but it doesn't just come to you. You see that in a lot of players. And Fred Warner, I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself because here's a guy where, the first few weeks he was a beast, and now his team's losing and he acts like a captain. He is the guy that is going to put the pressure on his shoulders and be like, all right, my defense sucks right now. Is this my fault? Is this my fault? Like he's going to question himself. He's that kind of guy. He is very
introspective.
And he's the defensive Kittle. He's literally because he's a very positive guy, and he's gonna give his morale to the team. He's gonna get that morale up. But lately, it's been so bad, the morale can't get up, and I think that's what it is. There's so much pressure on him to do good, and he looks around and he sees these guys getting freaking stiff-armed and just pummeled. He's like, well, shit, like what am I doing wrong? But it's a lot of pressure for Fred. He's a great player. I hope we keep him for at least 5 more years. The guy is an animal. He reads quarterbacks better than any linebacker I've seen in a long time. But when you have all that pressure from a defense that looks so bad. I mean, this last game, I was watching the defense on what they did before the play started. And God, they look so confused. Like they look around and they're like, hey, like, are we going to do something like over here? And then a guy moves on the offensive side to the other side of the field and like, oh crap, we got to get him. And then the play goes the other way. And they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, and I get it, Fred. Like Fred's probably just the same way we are. We're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now because this guy's supposed to be over here and now he's over there. It's our defense is so disorganized, and it's sad to see because, we are usually the pride. The pride is our defense usually, but this year it's definitely not. And both these guys, I don't put any pressure on them. They're great players. They'll be back to their normal selves. It takes a while.
Al, you made a good comment about feeling like this thing is going to be softly rebooted and not a complete just gutting this whole thing over. I think when you look at things, a healthy 49ers team, they still got pretty good talent throughout this team. The problem is they need to kind of insulate themselves with more depth. They defensive line wise, I think for years we criticized the 49ers for being obsessed with the defensive line and only drafting defensive line and defensive tackle and edge rusher, and that's all they cared about. And they need to address this, that, and the other. I'm totally fine if they go back to the draft this year and their whole focus is on lines of scrimmage, offensive, defensive line, like the whole draft. I'm talking like edge, defensive tackle, even maybe, a future left tackle. I don't know if they want to do that, or a new center, or some sort of hybrid player that can play both. I don't know. Like they need to reinvest back into what got them to the dance all those years ago. I think the Niners have tried to evolve and start drafting different positions of need because those things are getting kind of thin in certain parts of the team, wide receiver, whatever. But like, I mean, just watching them, they had a stat or a picture of like the starting lineup in the Super Bowl last year. And it was Chase Young, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa. And then you had like Year Gross Matos, what is his name? Floyd.
Oh wait.
And I forget who were the starting defensive tackles in the game.
Collins,
I don't know if it was
Collins and Elliott probably started. Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, okay. There's part of the reason why we're doing so bad, but reinvesting in the lines of scrimmage, to me, I would have no problem with that being their draft strategy. I just think they need to refuel, reboot, retool, but not a complete teardown where a lot of people are saying like, it's time to get rid of the quarterback. He's no good. I was getting that on the TikTok stream after the game yesterday. Brock is no good. Let him go. He ain't Herbert. He ain't this. He ain't that. Like, I was talking to somebody at work. I'm like, you got maybe 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League that you consider elite. and you think you're just going to keep moving and replacing guys until you get the one you're looking for, you're going to be looking for 30 years. Like those guys don't come along all the time. Like Mahomes, who do we got? What would we consider elite in the NFL? Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and maybe Josh Allen. That's it. That means 28 other teams they need to keep gutting their quarterback room every other year until they get the one that they're looking for. It's not realistic.
And even the word elite, like it's so unquantifiable. If Lamar and Allen were that elite, they would have willed their teams to a Super Bowl by now. Patrick Mahomes be damned, right? Because Lamar's got the legs. He can throw the ball. Allen's got the legs and the cannon. Like they should, I don't care what the defense is doing. Like they should be able to will their teams to a Super Bowl. So if you're going to be elite, it's so funny. You could say there's elite quarterbacks in this league that have either played in one championship game or no Super Bowls. Like that's wild to me. Like if you're that good, you would have gotten there. Hell, at least Marino got to one, right? But just going back to the O-line, you know who wasn't a liability yesterday? Jalen Moore subbing in for Trent Williams. He wasn't called for a penalty. He was one of Pro Football Focus's 5 highest rated linemen. I'm not saying, or 5 highest rated offensive players. I'm not saying he's an answer, but I could also see the Niners bringing him back on the cheap. I could see the Niners signing backup guard Ben Barch as a replacement for Aaron Banks because he's going to go. So yes, do they need to draft another D end, D tackle, O lineman? Like, what are they going to do with Jake Brendel? Is he? I mean, he's one of the older players, and I think, and I saw this a lot on Twitter X yesterday. Was the windows closed? The window's closed for this year. Windows closed for this year because who knows what next year is going to look like? Who knows the team that's going to come out of nowhere and be a division champ or a worst to first or whatever? But if Brendel's gone and Charvarius Ward and Javon Hargrave and say Juice, they would need to find a fullback. Like I think Juice is valuable to a certain degree. Like they are going to lose older players and replace them with younger free agents, you would assume, or if they hit on half their draft picks. I think the narrative of the Niners being an old team is going to go away next year. And especially if Debo goes too, because he's 29 years old or going to be 29 or 30. They still have young-ish players at like the most important positions on the field: quarterback, running back, defensive end, cornerback, linebacker. If you like anybody, right guard. I mean, I don't know how important right guard is, but at least Dominic Cooney's, young. Backup running back. The receiving core is going to be young, minus Debo, right? Like you have 2 rookies. You have Ayuk on the mend. They're probably going to have someone else come in. Conley will be gone, so that's another 30-year-old player. So the age thing isn't, to me, an issue. I think there are some players that probably only have 2 or 3 years of their prime left. That's okay. So that's why I think it's more of a reload than anything else, because you want to maximize whatever McCaffrey has left, and Bosa and Warner, and Debo maybe has a little bit more left than some others. So I don't think there's going to be huge swings. Like I can't see them bring in a $25 million, $30 million a year free agent. Like hell, I'm still okay with it. I know some fans on Twitter aren't, that they let Eric Armstead go, which is laughable whenever you're going to make that statement, because I don't think he's done anything in Jacksonville that's worthwhile. And I made the simple statement of like, hell, I'll go 2 for 1 against Armstead. I'll go Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott versus 1 Eric Armstead, because he's going to miss time. He's going to miss 6 or more games. So you want to like double up on the position. And those 2 players might not be as good as Armstead if
he also has a podcast that'll put you to sleep.
Right. But you need backup. We're talking about backups too. So you have a starter and a backup versus Justin Armstead, who's going to get hurt.
I'm one of the people that did like Armstead, and I know Aaron
no problem with him. No,
crazy.
good guy.
But the 4th and 1 thing, I mean, he stopped it every damn time, which was great. I thought he was great for that. But yes, you're right. He missed a lot of time.
One thing I am sick to death of on social media is this notion. This is how how people, when it comes to brain cells or lack thereof, or just maybe knowledge of football at all. Oh man, I had Al knows who I had to block somebody yesterday because they were just absolutely infuriating me. These people with this mindset that let's sign Daniel Jones.
No.
As a quarterback.
No.
Let's sign Aaron Rodgers to be a quarterback. What tweet did I see? He said, get rid of Brock Purdy What would you guys think if the Niners got rid of Brock Purdy and brought in on a 1-year deal Aaron Rodgers with this supporting cast?
Oh my God.
Wha-
These people are
And
brain dead.
I don't know if I tweeted one of them. That's why you're not a GM in the NFL, because that kind of move would get somebody completely banished to Siberia. And then this whole Daniel Jones thing, like, oh my God, people have this fantasy, this fascination with guys that are tall that can sling the rock a little bit. Like, that doesn't make you a great quarterback. It's based on the neck up. The physical only is like 1/10 of what it takes to be a National Football League quarterback. And everybody gets a freaking stiffy every time they see a quarterback that's over 6'4" and has a decent arm, that they're going to be the second coming of Patrick Mahomes or this guy or that guy. And it's so it's infuriating for me to watch, because it's like it's I don't know, man. I just don't get it. I don't get the obsession with every time one of these guys becomes a free agent or something, that the Niners need to just completely gut what they're doing and bring this guy in.
Hey, look at Bryce Young. Here's a great example of patience with a quarterback. Okay, this guy has not looked good, but he almost freaking beat the Chiefs yesterday. Bryce freaking Young. Okay, that's why people need to get their IQ up. You have to have patience with quarterbacks. Of course, I'm not talking about Purdy, because we don't need patience with him. He already did his job. He's took us to the Super Bowl. He's proven that he's a good quarterback. To us people that have football IQ, with people that are dumb as rocks, what would Daniel Jones do? He doesn't know our playbook. He doesn't know anything about us. He's sucked with the New York Giants, who got a number one first round pick, Neighbors, who's a great wide receiver. Poor guy hasn't done crap because his quarterback sucks. So if you want to get him, oh yeah, go ahead. We'll go 5-11 or 5-12 real quick with him. And then Aaron Rodgers, are you kidding me? Like, bro, the guy has 3-star wide receivers and he still can't do anything. So how the hell is he going to come here with maybe 1-star wide receiver and do something? The fact that people actually think that's a thing is just, I think it's just all for popularity. People just blurt shit out, and it pisses me off, because it's like, I think these people really believe
in what they're tweeting.
If
they really do.
They need to get a freaking brain exam.
Yeah, no, that's why, like, people tweet things without thinking, or their opinions are just bad. Like, I always used to laugh when someone used to say, like, well, you have to respect everybody's opinion. I'm like, not really, because there are people in this world that actually think that the earth is flat, right? So I have to respect that opinion, or things in politics or other stuff. Like, no, you can have an opinion, just know you can be wrong. Your opinion can actually be wrong. Aaron Rodgers, the Achilles, it's unfortunate for him. He's on the wrong side of 40. He looks washed up. The Jets bent over backwards to accommodate him with Nathaniel Hackett and Devontae Adams.
They acquiesced a ton.
They acquiesced like crazy. He's a cancer. He might not be the worst person on the planet, but where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Too many people have said too many unflattering things about him.
Look at all the women he's had in Hollywood that everyone is just like, oh, wow, Olivia Munn, this one, that one. And all of them have just like did whatever they could to get as far away from this guy as possible.
and James is right about Daniel Jones. I mean, like, I'm sure he's going to go to, I think Baltimore makes a lot of sense. Like, if you want, it's funny. I'm a backup quarterback and I want to go to a playoff contender. Why? So you can sit down and watch playoff games from the bench. Like, I know there's the off chance that the QB gets hurt, you're going to play and all that good stuff. He doesn't make sense coming through. People thinking that, oh, I want to see, in case Brock's shoulder isn't good the rest of the season, I want to see Daniel Jones play. Newsflash, morons, he wouldn't be functional till week 16, and then it's over. Yeah. He's not, like James said, he needs to learn the playbook. Like, if they were to sign him to a 2-year deal and Shanahan really likes him as a backup for next year, maybe I can understand that. But for anyone thinking that Daniel Jones would provide anything on the field to the 49ers this year, and not to say that Jimmy Garoppolo was any sort of brain surgeon. I'm sure he's a smart guy. You got to be somewhat smart to play quarterback in the NFL, right? But when they traded for him in 2018, that was around Halloween. He only played the last 5 games of the year, and he was 5-0, which means he missed 4 to 5 weeks in there to learn the playbook. Daniel Jones went to Duke, but he looks dumb. He's not going to be coming in and the following week playing starting quarterback for the Niners. It's not happening, and he's not coming here anyway.
And he's been one of the worst quarterbacks drafted in the last decade. It's not even close. He set the Giants back. He has set the Giants back for years with the amount of money they invested into him. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this is a tangent, and please let's get back to what we were saying. I think the most interesting thing that's going to happen in the offseason from a quarterback standpoint has nothing to do with the Niners, nothing to do with Daniel Jones or whatever. It's Sam Darnold. I want to see the team that's going to pay Sam Darnold like a Baker Mayfield type contract for one good year in Minnesota. Yes, he sat in San Fran, learned from Brock, but from Kyle and stuff like that. But there's going to, because they're so quarterback starved, and someone's going to take a chance on Daniel Jones. I mean, people are saying now it might be the Raiders because Gardner Minshew broke his collarbone, and maybe, Jones plays the last 3 years and he's 3 games and he's a bridge for next year. But someone is going to roll the dice on Sam freaking Darnold next year. And it might be Minnesota, because everyone thinks I can be the one to get the best out of this quarterback, when sometimes they're just crap. And right now, Daniel Jones is trending that way. Hell, if he comes to San Francisco and sits all of next year and doesn't play and rehabilitates himself and gets the kind of contract that Darnold got from Minnesota, then good for him, right? But I know this is totally, I'm just really curious what happens to Sam Darnold. It's only related because he was a Niner at one point, because we're going to go based on his entire history or 1 year with the Vikings where everything kind of fell into place for him. That's a decision that's going to cost the GM his job.
Yep.
Fair enough. Trying to think where else we could go with this before we get out of here. We've talked about this, so I'll just ask you guys real quick. With the Niners being where they are record-wise, in the possibility of missing the playoffs, would you be okay with the 49ers deciding to sit down Dre Greenlaw on the shelf for 2025?
Oh yeah.
And just saying we'll see him next year, because I don't know, man. I feel like it happened in February, Al.
Yeah.
And it's not even a full year yet, and you want to rush him back for what might be meaningless football in December. Why would you do that? Let him rest. And same thing if they're mathematically eliminated, I think that the 49ers should sit down CMC until next year and let the Isaac Orendo and Jordan Mason show go. You know what I mean? Start planning for the future and start, getting to see what you have in certain players. Jacob Cowing, for instance.
Yep.
If Debo don't want to do and you don't want to be here and he doesn't want to participate and he wants to sulk and he wants to not be a team captain, I don't know, start to increase the reps of Cowing if he could ever get healthy. You know what I mean? It's getting to the point now, if they're into that place where they're no longer going to be a playoff threat, why in God's name would you bring back Dre Greenlaw for meaningless football when there's a possibility he could get re-injured and then you don't have him for next year? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll quickly say, I think it's not meaningless football until it is, right? Until they're either mathematically eliminated or it looks really, really bad. But all we know right now, because I can count on my hand, actually it's 11 games, so I'd have to count on my hands and one of my toes. They're 1 game back. They're 5-6 and 1 game back. 2 teams are 6-5, and the Rams are 5-6 with them. So they are in it until they're not. And remember too, just because they're opening his practice window this week
doesn't mean he's going to play.
Guarantees nothing. John Feliciano's practice window was open. He's going back on IR. He's done.
And probably retiring.
And probably retiring too, unfortunately for him. Greenlaw, it may be up to him, and his agent may be the one saying, hey, listen, don't risk it. You're a free agent after this year. And maybe he takes a 1-year prove-it deal with San Francisco. Aaron, it makes a lot of sense. I would, once they're eliminated, I would sit whoever is banged up. If it's McCaffrey, if Purdy's shoulder is still sore, if Trent's ankle, Bosa's oblique, whoever else. Now I think Demo's getting an MRI. Pooney's getting an MRI on stuff now. Cowing's still in concussion protocol. As terrible as it looks, and it looks terrible, and it looked worse than terrible yesterday, they're still a game back, and they could still be a game back losing to Buffalo.
Unbelievable.
That's how crazy it is. That's how that's how they might think coming back to Santa Clara for 2 games. It could be an all hands on deck. Like, let's go. We're still a game back. But once it's done, Ski, yep, put people on ice. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
I can't get excited for these games. I was not angry, to say the least. I was not angry. Well, that wasn't what I was trying to say. I wasn't angry one bit watching yesterday's game. I have resigned the fact of what's going to happen this year.
I bet on Green Bay. I
bet on
put
Green Bay.
money on the Packers. The only thing I'm pissed about is I didn't put money on Green Bay when Brock was still in doubt. I literally did it yesterday, and the line went up a ton, and it totally screwed my odds. I'm no homer, but I'm also no idiot.
Hell? I mean, you got to go with who's going to really win. With Greenlaw, yeah, I think we should just rest him because that 2 tandem, Fred Warner and Greenlaw, is great. But, if we're likely going to lose this next game, and 5-7, and if the Cardinals or if the Seahawks win, then they'll be 2 games ahead of us, 3 games ahead of us, something like that. So I think it's just kind of past the point, if they bring everybody back and just want everybody all hands on deck, it's not going to make sense because we're playing so poorly right now that what are they going to help with? Like, what is Dre Greenlaw? Oh my God, Dre Greenlaw comes back. Is he going to make 10 freaking tackles and force fumbles when he gets back? I highly doubt it. So what the hell is the point of him coming back? It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Greenlaw, do you re-sign him in the offseason?
Oh yeah.
I would love to.
Oh yeah.
And I think they'll have enough money to, at least for next year. Like but I think he's going to be so far removed from the Achilles that he may not have to take a 1-year prove it deal with anybody.
Right.
Because by the time next season starts, you're talking another 10 months from now. He's going to be 100% fully healed, like you would hope. So I think it will be great for them too. But they're starting to get into decision mode with a lot of these. He's not older, but either injured, older, or high-priced players that either have to let walk or cut, just to think about the future a little bit more. But it would be phenomenal if they could, because he's the proxy for Robert Saleh or D'Amico Ryans. He's the energy maker on the field on defense that they don't have.
Fred Warner's not the same without Dre Greenlaw.
He's the enforcer. He's the guy that pisses your defense off, so they start freaking walloping everybody.
Yeah, he plays right to the edge of the whistle. That's the guy that you want.
And he's going to lead the defense in personal fouls,
which I'm totally fine with as long as we win. As much as I used to hate him getting them, I was always.
And you saw him coming. You saw the the cheap shot, the hit out of bounds on the court. Like you see it coming 2 seconds before it happens, and you're like, don't.
I'm trying to figure out if Loyal Blue is somebody that me and Al know that decided to make a fake YouTube account. I guarantee San Francisco will not pay him the max contract. Purdy doesn't elevate players. Not hating, but he's mid-talent.
If Purdy doesn't elevate players, how come Ayuk had the best season of his career last year? If Purdy doesn't elevate players, why was CMC an offensive player of the year candidate? If Purdy doesn't elevate players or those around him, how come Shanahan's offense has never operated at a clip that it did last year versus years before that? If Purdy doesn't elevate players, why was he an MVP finalist? That's crazy. So ridiculous to say.
Crazy.
Well, the whole thing with Purdy is the Niners have ran the same offense since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch got here. And like you said, the only guy that has ran it to its maximum crescendo that we've been wanting to see for years has been Brock. To me, man.
Yeah. Jimmy
Go ahead. Go find another fucking quarterback then. Go find one and then bring him to fucking San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean,
same thing with the coach. Like, you want to get rid of Shanahan? What's your plan? What do you got? What is your fallback plan if Shanahan is not the coach of the 49ers? What is it? Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson's been hot for 5 minutes. What has Ben Johnson done in the NFL besides have one of the most talented offenses in the National Football League on the Detroit Lions?
How many quarterbacks in the NFL, and maybe Mahomes isn't doing it this year, elite above average, whatever. But how many quarterbacks are we actually saying are elevating players around them in the league this year?
Not many. Not many.
Or any year. When was there a year like the year that Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns was the MVP? Was he just having a great year? Was he really elevating the play of those around him? Remember, he had Hill in his prime. He had Kelsey in his prime. Sammy Watkins wasn't a great receiver anyway, but whatever. But this idea of elevating those around you, like, did Jordan? I mean, maybe Michael Jordan. I mean, we can go over like Michael Jordan because he demanded the best out of everybody. Tom Brady because he would used to yell at you, like, you know, Peyton Manning. Like there were players. That number of players in the NFL is so small year to year that I think it's a lazy argument that people make. I just want a quarterback that's going to be. Then why hasn't he signed? Because he's not eligible to sign yet, moron. He's not eligible to sign until after his third season. You guys can't make comments like this if you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, my God.
All quarterbacks are game managers. Tom Brady was a game manager this first couple Super Bowls.
Yeah,
Tom Brady wasn't the Tom Brady we saw.
Tom Brady kept the ball, and he kept it and kept it and kept it, and that's why they kept running the clock out and winning the freaking games. What matters, winning games or getting some quarterback that can throw 4,000 yards? I don't give a shit about throwing 4,000 yards. I want to freaking win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tom Brady wasn't the GOAT when he first started. He was a game manager.
Yep.
He became the guy that we all know and hate.
Right.
Right around 2007 when they had Randy Moss, you started to see that second elevation of it, or that second, I'm trying to think of the word. Like his career kind of had like stages.
Yeah.
And I felt like the stage of his career where he started to become the guy listen, I'm a Joe Montana guy all the way, but you know, Brady surpassed him. He's got more rings, cheating, not cheating. It's still 7 rings. And I'm a Joe guy all the way. Again, this notion that you could just go pluck quarterbacks that are great and just put them in there like, oh, Brady.
What, are you going to draft Trey Lance again? I mean, come on.
He's mid. All right. Let's go gut this thing and try again. And then
I hate to break it to folks. Every quarterback's a system quarterback. And when the quarterback and the coach and the system click, that's when you get elite or elite level play. Montana ran Walsh's system. Yep. Young ran Mike Shanahan's system. Patrick Mahomes is running Andy Reid's system. Tom Brady ran Charlie Weiss and Josh McDaniels' system. It's a giant puzzle, guys. You're finding the right piece to complete the puzzle of what you want to do on offense or defense. And when you find the quarterback that's right for your team, it wasn't Lance, it wasn't Garoppolo, it wasn't Mullins, it wasn't Beathard, it wasn't Brian Hoyer. There's a reason why Brock is doing it so well and at a high level. And now we're all going to forget his 3 touchdown performance against the Rams to Juwan Jennings when he didn't really have anybody. Yep. And it's just because he's surrounded by talent.
Another
is
player.
Joe Burrow anything without Higgins and Mixon and Jamar Chase? Would Peyton Manning be Peyton Manning without who he had? Mahomes struggled for a lot of this season because he didn't have any weapons, and he's turned it on. Matthew Stafford this year without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Don't give me he's only good because he has weapons argument. Give me instead the quarterback who is great with no weapons. Give me a list. Does it fit? This isn't even a Post-it pad. Does it fit on a Post-it pad? Probably not.
Montana had weapons. Young Montana had weapons. Young had weapons. Marino had weapons. Elway had weapons. Kelly had weapons. Warren Moon had weapons in his career. Everybody has to have weapons in order to, this whole notion that you could just put out UPS drivers on the field and expect the quarterback to play.
That's why he's good. It's like you can have freaking Randy Moss and not be good. Look at freaking Aaron Rodgers right now. He's the freaking Devontae Adams. What's he doing with him? Nothing. There's plenty of quarterbacks that have weapons.
Wasn't good this year. Purdy wasn't good this year. Dude, it's the going right with quarterbacks. He's getting paid. Quarterbacks have down years. The 49ers have had a down year. They've had a down year as a team. I don't think if you look at Purdy statistics and you compare them to last year's, they're pretty similar.
Yeah. No, they are. And Loyal Blue, I know this isn't a call-in show. Let me just ask this for you. Are you one of those people that think Jordan Love is worth $55 million a year? Did you see the game yesterday? Did Jordan Love do anything spectacular? Jordan Love got paid on 9 games last year, right? Got paid on a good 9 games, good game against the Cowboys, and he choked the game away against San Francisco. Are you going to sit here and tell all of us or yourself, unless you just want to be a hater, that Brock is not in the same category as Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and historically Jared Goff? He's having a very good year this year. He really is. He also threw 5 interceptions in a win. Let's imagine another alternate universe where Brock Purdy throws 5 interceptions in a win. They'd still be nailing the crucifix to the ground, waiting to put Brock up on it.
Yeah.
So it's the market. It's the going rate. If you guys don't understand economics out there.
Jordan Love is a better player than Brock Purdy.
That's why he won in the playoffs last year, right?
Whoa, with how? In what way? In what way?
He almost threw two picks in this last game.
What did he do? What has he done that makes him a better player? I would love to know. What has he accomplished?
Show me
what
the
has he
metrics
accomplished?
Anywhere where Jordan Love is a better player than Brock Purdy. Jordan Love leads the NFL in interceptions, and he missed 2 games or 2.5 games, and he should have had at least one yesterday. I mean,
It wasn't the reason they won yesterday.
Even
no, but he should have thrown at
they
least
should
one,
be
if not
9-1 right now. The Packers even said they should be 9-1 right now.
You think the Niners aren't investing in him for the future? You're insane. Who's the quarterback? Who's coming to save us?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Listen, if anybody's argument out there about Purdy is that Purdy shouldn't make $60 million a year or more, I agree with that, because I've said before on my show, on your show, that just because you're next does not mean you get paid the most. Dak was next. He got paid the most. That team was crap before he got paid. It's going to be crap. It was crap while he was playing, and it's crap now that he's on injured reserve. Purdy should not get more than $60 million a year. If that's anybody's argument, I will kowtow and agree, because I don't believe in that. But again, if you're telling me he's not in the same class as Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Jordan Love, or Jared Goff, then you're full of crap, guys, and you just don't know football. One, either how he's performed, right? 2 NFC championship games, a Super Bowl, an MVP finalist year, a tremendous year coming off of major elbow surgery, right? Tua, Herbert, Goff. I mean, Goff's been to Super Bowl, fine. Trevor Lawrence. What if they actually accomplished? And stop with the measurables. Big, strong, fast, can run. All that stuff in 50 cents gets you a child-sized bag of chips. That's all it gets you.
They have this obsession, this sexual
attraction, big and macho,
because
6'4" and
with big
throw
guys
90 yards, throw 45 million passing yards, but not get to one single playoff game.
And listen, and I'm not saying Brock Purdy's a top 5 QB. I will probably never say he's a top 5 QB unless he strings together 3, 4, 5 years of ridiculous.
To say he doesn't belong in the league is to me is asinine.
But he's a 7 or 8 to 12 in the league quarterback, right? He just is, by every metric since he's been in the league. He's a top 7 or 8 to 12 quarterback, and them boys get paid. And I'll be the first one on my show to be ripping the Niners if they give him $63 million a year, because that would be ridiculous unless it's structured in a way.
I don't think the Niners are going to. I think the Niners are looking to build this team out still with him. This whole notion that you can neglect to put weapons around a quarterback because he can do it by himself, guys. To me that's just it tells me you don't know football.
And the only reason Mahomes is doing it by himself,
Purdy has done it.
Is kick ass.
Purdy has done it without weapons. He had Juwan Jennings. That was it in one game. And what did Juwan do? 3 touchdowns. So what the hell do you say to that? Like, he makes players better.
Minus the no, like Mahomes has been suffering without a lot of weapons this season. He lost his top 2 receivers. Pacheco might be coming back this week. I get it. And they're 9-1, whatever it is. Please tell me we all know that if Brock Purdy's offense remained the same, McCaffrey out, Ayuk injury, whatever, from week 1 to now, but they had the Chiefs defense, what's the Niners record?
Way better. I'm going to give you a number.
It'd be at least 7-3.
Yep. 8-3, 7-4.
Yeah.
So
he asked, "What do you think about Hurts?" If we're gonna go with the Hurts measurement or the Hurts comparison,
He's a top 10 quarterback also. He's the bottom of the top 10 or early teens.
I don't think I don't think you would consider him elite. Just like I don't think Brock Purdy is elite. I don't think he's an elite quarterback.
No, he's not.
I don't think there's very few quarterbacks. That's the thing I don't understand is like there's only so many quarterbacks in the league that you consider elite. But to say he doesn't belong and he doesn't deserve to get paid when there's 28 other quarterbacks in the NFL that are kind of all in the same pool, the same soup, and they're all getting paid what the market tells them they're going to get paid. It's just how it works. What are you going to do? Here, you're going to get $2 million a year. Deal with it. It's not going to happen.
There are people out there that are like, and they shouldn't offer him any more than $40 million a year. Like, and if he doesn't take that walk, okay. You think that if you were Brock Purdy or Brock Purdy's agent, do you think you would accept a Daniel Jones contract? Because remember, that's what he averaged, $40 million a year, and his ass got cut. There is no way, guys. Like, that's why crazy talk. No to 63, but he's going to get about 53. If he gets or takes less than 50, he is doing the Niners a favor. He really is. I think his floor starts at 50 because, again, it's the market. If Tua gets it, if Lawrence gets it, and if Love gets it, you can't tell me Brock doesn't get it too. You just can't.
I'll hit on this one and then we'll get out of here. He says that his whole point was to say he wasn't elite. I never said he was elite. No. He said, my point is, I said to Danny, my point is when I said y'all called Daniel Jones trash, you need a team around him. It doesn't matter. I don't think the team around Daniel Jones is going to make a damn bit of difference. He's just not a good quarterback.
He got neighbors and he had Saquon Barkley last year. I mean, come on.
And Daniel Jones got $40 million a year coming off of a year where he threw 15 touchdowns. The market's the market, guys. We don't have to like it. I don't think any of us like it. I think all of us would be thrilled if Brock played for $35 million a year because you could put money to other positions. We'd all be, and it's not our money, but we'd all be happy about roster management and filling other slots if Brock took a 40% discount. But it's just not realistic. It's not.
Purdy on the Giants would have done nothing. I don't think anybody on the Giants would have done anything. They're a horribly run organization from top to bottom. Head coach. The fact that they gave Daniel Jones the money they gave him when he showed no signs of being an elite quarterback is beyond me.
Yeah. And
at least Purdy is giving you reasons to believe that he actually belongs in the league. Would you say right now, based on what he's accomplished, that Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy right now? I don't think so.
Is he a more okay? So here's the difference: is he a more talented quarterback?
Physically talented, yes.
Physically talented, yes.
Yes.
Better
arm
quarterback,
strength, yes.
no. Right.
Yeah. I'm a big Joe Montana guy, but it's like I hated Tom Brady when he played, but he is the GOAT, and I wish quarterbacks like Purdy, like anybody, would do that price cut thing. You know, he would always take the lower price cut and get a bunch of weapons around him. Wes Welker, Randy Moss, Edelman, all these great wide receivers around him. Now,
I'll just say that Purdy does what the Niners need him to do.
Hopefully Purdy does that. We don't know. We have no idea what he's going to do.
Purdy does what the Niners need him to do. For what the Niners need him to do, he does it well. So the going rate is to pay a guy whatever it is you got to pay him. And that's just the way that the NFL is. Unfortunate that there's no other way to pay quarterbacks in the NFL. But if the going rate is $50 million and you try to underpay a guy by $20 million, let's say, we're only going to give you 25, 30 million, he's going to ask for a trade and there'll be other teams looking for a quarterback. Trust me.
And the size thing, don't even mention it because
look at Drew Brees.
There's not many. Yes, there's not many, but there are some that are elite. I mean, I'm talking Doug Flutie. I'm talking Drew Brees. I'm talking these small guys that can go around defenders, make huge plays.
I think Purdy has sneaky athleticism. Yeah, I think Purdy has sneaky athleticism. I think he's an extremely accurate quarterback, and I think he's a leader. And I think he's like those three things: leader, accurate passer, and is sneaky mobile with his legs.
Yep.
He's not a statue back there. He's not a big guy. I mean, he got himself hurt the other day. We don't know how, but listen, man, Purdy is the least of the 49ers problems going into the offseason right now.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I don't even want to hear anything about him right now until we figure out free agency, the draft, who's coming, who's going. We still got to finish out this freaking clown show. That's still 5 games left. So
I got money on the Bills.
Yeah.
probably going to be
that
talking about
friggin'
another
game.
loss next week, but we'll be back. I'm not of the same mindset of, looking at the positive. I think the Niners are toast, but I mean, even if they make the playoffs, like, what are they going to accomplish? I don't know. I'm just at the mindset of like, once it's time to shut it down, and I'll worry about next year. Like, I hate that. I hate it. I want us to be talking about the playoffs, but that's just the team that we have this year.
I wonder too. No, I'm with you. Shut it down when they're done. Shut it down. But I really do wonder for everybody out there, and social media is such a bad barometer of anything, sports, politics, car rate, whatever it is. But I really wonder if people were injected with truth serum and you put a poll out there in terms of, do you want the Niners to make the playoffs or no? Right. I wonder what that would come down to. Like, who's going to really play the card of,
I wouldn't want them to make the playoffs this year. I think it would be a bad, those sooner they're out of it, the better they have a position to draft an elite player. I hate to say that, but at this point, if this is the way the season's going, you don't tank to have good draft picks. But at the same time, like, would you be mad if the Niners had a top 12, a top 15 pick? I wouldn't.
No. And no team's going to tank unless ownership gives you the okay to tank. It's not like the NBA.
And like we've been saying, our team's old. We need to get some young players. That would help us a lot.
But the Niners aren't bereft. The Niners aren't bereft of talent either. They have talent.
No, we have.
But listen, if they sneak in and we get to watch one more game, a wild card game, it's one more Niner game to watch, because there's going to be 6 months of no Niner game. And it's going to suck. Right. So that's why I wonder, like, how many people, the draft picks aside too, because, their first round hit rate hasn't been fantastic under this regime. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be out of our control. They're not going to tank, but putting Brandon Allen at quarterback, even over Josh Dobbs, like it's almost tantamount to, and he didn't play terribly, but he doesn't inspire confidence at all. At least, and I know we went well over, at least with Josh Dobbs, I'm still surprised he was not the backup quarterback from training camp. At least he would provide some sort of an offensive, like, jump start, some sort of spark with his legs, mobility. Brandon Allen was the safe pick. Josh Dobbs might lose them the game by throwing 3 picks, whatever, but he has more of the potential to win them a game, right, than Brandon Allen.
When your starting quarterback comes into the game with a busted left throwing finger, you're going to have a crappy day.
And hasn't played a game in 3 years.
Yeah, it's just.
I just want to say I'll be at the game. Anybody going to the Bills-Niners game, I'll be in row 121, still cheering on my 49ers, even though we suck right now. So, that's what we got to keep our mind at. We still love the Niners. We still love the Niners. That's all it is.
And I hope you have a great time, man. I'm sure Buffalo Bill fans will be nice, and if nothing else, pitying Niner fans that are there.
Hey, all I'm going to say to them is we have the same enemy, the Chiefs. All right.
Just remember, Bills fans, even if you win, you've had 30 years to catch the Niners. We still have 5 more championships than you do. So
exactly.
That's my argument. That's the argument I'm going with, just in case they want to start. Just in case they want to start doing this, I'm like, wait a minute, we gave you a 30-year freaking head start.
Yeah.
Still no championships. So what? Woo! You beat us in the regular season. Oh, I'm going to do the click of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Ooh. But we're going to out here, guys. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.